Hello and welcome to the video about virtual energy, which you may have run into when you were trying to play Le Mans Ultimate. Probably the most confusing part that could have happened is firing up the game, loading up your favorite GT3 car, going into the setup, and you're greeted with virtual energy. Immediately maybe thinking, hold up, GT3s aren't hybrids, why do I have virtual energy? Well, virtual energy is not really a charge for the electrical engine because, like you correctly assume, the GT3s do not have an electrical engine, but is something different entirely. And we are going to explore this today. WEC Virtual Energy, or VE for short, is a system used in endurance racing, particularly in the World Endurance Championship, to manage and balance the performance of different cars within the same class. It's not about measuring the electrical charge of a hybrid system, as some might assume, but rather a tool for balancing the performance between cars that may have different energy management strategies. In essence, virtual energy is used to set limits on the amount of energy a car can use during a race, ensuring that all vehicles are competing on an even playing field. The system applies to both hypercars and GT3 cars, though these two categories have different energy limits based on their performance. For example, hypercars, which are top-tier cars, have a different energy allocation than GT3 cars, which are slightly less powerful. By using WEC Virtual Energy, the organizers can adjust the performance of each car to ensure that no team has an unfair advantage based on factors like aerodynamics, weight, and hybrid systems. This is part of the balance of performance system, where energy limits are strategically adjusted to maintain fairness and competitive racing across a variety of car types within the same class. Now that we have a rough idea what virtual energy is, you might ask yourself, how is virtual energy consumed? Well, just like any other fuel, the more time you spend with your right foot on the loud pedal, the more energy your engine consumes to create power. And this is exactly the same for virtual energy. So the more time you spend with your right foot on power, the more virtual energy is being consumed. Of course, at the same time, the fuel is also consumed. Both are being consumed at slightly different rates, but essentially the concept is the same. So what happens if virtual energy runs to 0%? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. If fuel runs to 0%, what happens? Your engine is going to shut off because it needs the fuel to run. But with virtual energy, the engine doesn't shut down. You can continue driving, you can still get back to the pits, although you will be handed a pretty hefty penalty that you will have to serve within the race. But wait, if both virtual energy and fuel are consumed at different rates, you might wonder, how do I know how much of which I need? And how do I control this? Well, this is done quite easily. First, of course, you need to load up into a practice session, which is advised. Go do a couple of laps and look at your MFD for your virtual energy and fuel consumption. Note these down and apply a simple bit of math where you divide the fuel consumption divided by virtual energy consumption. The result that you get is fuel ratio. After doing a couple of laps, head back to your pits and head back to your car setup screen. Go into the advanced setup under powertrain, and on the top left you have the controls to set up your virtual energy and your fuel ratio. You've calculated your fuel ratio and you can adjust this here based on your calculation. Pretty much what you get is fine for this. Usually as the fuel load will reduce, your car will start consuming the actual fuel a little bit less while consuming the same amount of energy. Therefore also the fuel ratio will drop a little bit, which is not a problem. We just don't want to run out, and if you've calculated 0.82, put that in and that's it. Okay, but now how do we calculate the required virtual energy and fuel for the race? Well, it's rather pretty simple. Since we have our fuel ratio set we are just going to be calculating with energy. So in our example, we're consuming 5.1% of virtual energy per lap. We're going to take a hypothetical race of 70 minutes and say that the lap times are around 2 minutes 20 seconds. Calculating this, we get roughly 30 laps, but we will take 31 laps to be safe. Calculating then further with this simple equation, we figure out that we need roughly 160% of virtual energy. While these calculations and predictions about how much virtual energy and how much fuel you will need require some calculation, specifically if you're running a little bit longer of a race, you can head down to the video description to the strategy calculator down below, which is an excellent tool to help you out with setting up your strategy for your next race. Now that you've learned what virtual energy is, how it relates to fuel, how to set everything up, and how to prepare yourself for the next race, I will say thank you very much for watching. I hope you have learned something, and if you did, please leave a like and join me for the next video. Bye bye!